This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, hello everyone, and from the National Association of Farm Broadcasting Convention here in Kansas City, Missouri, on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, I'm Dustin Hoffman, and this is Ag Matters PM for Wednesday, November the 13th, 2024. So glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on in the program, we're going to talk with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net, find out how those grain and livestock markets closed here for the day. But right now, we're going to talk with President and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, Dan Halstrom. We caught up with him earlier in the day here in Kansas City, talking about some of the things that he's looking at for 2025, recapping a little bit of 2024, and talking about some of the concerns they may have if any potential tariffs are put on for our trade of red meat products. Talking with USMEF President and CEO Dan Halstrom. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk with us today.
Of course, Dustin, my pleasure.
So a lot of things we're talking about obviously have to do with what's going to happen now that we have a new administration coming in, what's the forecast for exports, things like that. There's a lot of things to talk about. Tariffs are being bandied about quite a bit. What kind of things are you guys focusing on? What's the message you guys are trying to get to both to a new administration and to our trading partners?
Well, I think anytime you have a new administration, not only in the U.S., but in some of our key trading partners, and there's been a lot of them that had elections this year, Mexico, Japan, India, you could go on down a list. There's always some level of uncertainty. But that being said, I think what we're focused on is that we have some real momentum built up over the last several years, momentum on both beef and pork, and lamb too, for that matter. Places like Mexico, the USMCA relationship with Canada and Mexico, it's our largest trading bloc. Is very important to us. I think you look at North Asia, very important, Japan, Korea, and then South Asia, China. Everyone's talking about China, and while the economy is weak, it's still a very important market for us. So I think that we're trying to maintain that momentum, and our message is that exports are important. Very important and growing. We're going to be a record on pork this year, both volume and value, and we'll be the second highest value export year for beef. So I think we're going to try to maintain that momentum moving forward. And I think, there's a lot of talk about tariffs, right?
Right.
And, the $2.5 billion in sales we did to China last year, we had tariffs. So it's not insurmountable, obviously not ideal, but it's not insurmountable. But I think in the end, cooler heads prevail, and the importance of a relationship like USMCA and the fact that we have a structure of USMCA gives us an advantage to work through those speed bumps.
So outside of the political policies and all those things that we're talking about there, how is the kind of maybe recapping 24 and looking ahead to 25? What kind of things are you looking to see here?
Yeah, well, I think, as I said, 24 is a record on pork, second highest on beef. I think the pork forecast for 25 is another new record. You could argue on what the amount is, call it 3-4% potentially. And on beef, probably going to be down just a little bit, but value could be up because prices are probably going to be higher. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But I do think if you look at the opportunities, you've got the major markets we already talked about. It's these emerging regions of the world that are the opportunity. It's Central America, it's Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia. It's even looking at places like Africa, West Africa in particular, maybe Central Africa. These are all areas of the world that we've identified for both financial and resource expansion as well as business expansion.
So obviously when you're talking about a lot of these emerging marketplaces, whether it's Central America, Africa, a lot of them also have different traditional ways of cooking, different delicacies they have, and sometimes that lends us to different cuts of meat that we are getting, and that's just more value added to the producer, is it not?
Exactly, yeah. Maximizing a carcass, that's in our mission statement, actually. And, you think of a ribeyes, middle mates, loins, ribeyes, tenderloins. We actually export very few of those. Those pretty much stay here. There's some high-end restaurants that take them, but it's pretty much the vast majority stays here. We're interested in variety meats. You know, we're exporting on both beef and pork almost $1 billion a year in variety meats.
Okay.
So a lot of these countries, the variety meats, and I'll use Japan as an example, are center of the plate, like a beef tongue. They much rather have a beef tongue center of the plate than a ribeye in Japan, for example. So that's the beauty of it. You put the right cut in the right market where it is center of the plate and get more value for it, whereas it's not center of the plate here. That's a success formula for success.
What other things do our beef and hog and even lamb producers around the country really need to know going into 2025?
Well, I think number one is agriculture is one of the backbones of our economy, right? And I think our international trading partners appreciate more than what people recognize the value. Number one, if you're in a U.S. establishment number box, it's already assumed that we're the safest in the world, one of the most nutritious in the world, and of course the eating experience is high quality, whether it's beef or pork. So that number one, just be confident in that. The other thing is that the more customers, the better. So it's not about selling it international or domestic in a lot of cases. We need both, right? So if you have both hitting on all cylinders, the cutout goes up, the beef and pork cutout goes up, and hopefully then the price of hogs and cattle go up as well. So this is our goal. Our goal is to maximize that value opportunity, and we're trying to get producers, members of ours, more involved in telling that story. This is another strategy. Whether it's going to Japan and talking about we just had a group that went to Japan not long ago talking about their production practices, or if it's about going to Mexico and doing the same. So this strategically is something we're really focused on.
Now, not every producer has that opportunity to go to Japan, but is there something they can do to help share that story, no matter what level of a producer they are, that can be seen? Because obviously we know information consumption on the World Wide Web you can post a video and anybody in the world can see it. I mean, how can they get that message out there?
Anyone that's interested in getting more involved, I encourage them to reach out to us. We'll provide them with that information.
Perfect.
We will hook them up, and if they're interested in getting more involved and actually going, we have a lot of opportunities, as a lot of organizations do. I'm just speaking on behalf of the Meat Export Federation,
right?
But the Grains Council and other folks do the same thing. Get involved, because there's no better way to tell our story to the international customer than to get U.S. producers involved.
Well, Dan, we thank you so much for taking the time to update us on what's going on with USMEF.
Thanks, Dustin.
And that was USMEF President and CEO Dan Halstrom here on Ampm. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we will talk about markets with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of another trading day here on Ag Matters PM, being joined today for the market recap by Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. Sam, what did we see come out of those markets here today?
Well, Dustin, it was nothing good here. Lower across the board in corn, beans, wheat, even in the livestock markets, we were a little bit lower. We did see some exports out this morning for corn, sold some corn to Mexico and a little bit to unknown destinations, which based on the amount, it looked like it very well could have been Mexico as well. But just not able to hang in there today on that export news.
So what was leading the pressure in the markets here today?
So yesterday we saw the Trump administration nominated Lee Zeldin to run the EPA. And he has a history of opposing the renewable fuel standard as well as biofuels, which with the poor exports that we've seen in soybeans thus far and the anticipated export program for soybean being pretty well non-existent with the tariffs situation under the Trump administration, we're going to need to rely heavily on our domestic use. And if we have somebody there that's going to be opposing the biofuels, that's a big player in the soybean complex. So that really drug prices down towards the end of the day yesterday, and that followed through into today as well.
Definitely sounds like the replay of Trump 1.0 when we had problems, I know, in the beginning of the administration with the EPA administrator being against biofuels. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Moving over to the livestock side of thing, I know cattle and hogs had a decent day yesterday. Were they able to hold on to that momentum today?
They were mixed today. They kind of back and forth, didn't really go. They're just pretty much treading water, for lack of better terms. They were higher for a little bit. Then it looks like we closed down about 30 to 40 cents in the cattle and hogs here. Again, we fell off there on Monday, but still hanging in there. I mean, we're not on the highs that we were at here just a few weeks ago. But we're still hanging in there near the high end of the trading range. So it's definitely been something to pay attention to. And as I've said in the past, and I'll continue to say it here, if you're a livestock producer and you don't have protection on, I urge you to do so, because we saw what happened last year this time of year, where we had a very sharp sell off, and with the fund being as long as they are right now, I think that it wouldn't take a whole lot to scare them out of that position. And then when they start selling, it could be a very aggressive sell-off.
All right. Well, if producers want to talk about some of that protection and some of the options they have in the grain markets as well, and maybe even some of their 25 marketings already, what's the best way for them to get in touch with the folks at agmarket.net?
Yeah, Dustin, the best way would be to visit us at our website, agmarket.net, or you could just simply give us a phone call here. You can reach me here in Normal, 1-800-779-1515. It'd be an easy way to get in touch with you. I'd be happy to go over those options, like you said.
All right. Well, Sam, we thank you so much for your insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dustin. You have a good day.
And that again was Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio market screen at iowaagnet.com. At the close, December corn was down 2 cents at 426.5. January beans down 2 3/4 at 10.07 3/4. Soybean meal down $1.30 at 291.60 per ton. Soy oil down $1.05 at 45.18. Chicago wheat down 11 1/4 at 5.41 even. Kansas wheat down 5 3/4 at 5.40 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat down 6 3/4 at 5.71 even. Oats down 3 cents at 3.42 even. On the Merc live cattle down 37 cents at 184.02. Feeders down 35 cents at 246.47. Lean hogs down 47 cents at 81.87. Pork cutouts down 27 cents at 92.72. And Class 3 milk down a nickel at 19.97. And that has been a check of our closing market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, X, and on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified each time we put out a new video project. Also, don't forget about the Free Market Podcast coming to you 3 times a day, openings, middays, and closings. Again, you can find out more at iowaagnet.com. From the National Association of Farm Broadcasting Convention here in Kansas City, Missouri, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.